Hello and welcome to Building the Premier Accounting Firm. I'm your host, Roger Knecht, and this is going to be another exciting episode where we're going to be discussing things that you can be doing in your business to, in fact, become the premier accounting firm. It's here that we discuss a variety of topics, and today's going to be about staffing, things that you can be doing to excel in your business and make sure you have the right people in the right seats, and more importantly, build a business where the employees are definitely assets rather than liabilities, and I hope that makes sense. For this discussion, we've got another great expert that we're going to have on the show. It's Kara Laws. Kara is an incredible business educator. She has been an entrepreneur for over 15 years. She's built and sold multiple businesses, which I'm excited to talk about. She's trained hundreds of business owners and personally guided businesses through the systems and hiring procedures that got them through COVID. Kara's clients range from startups to multi-million-dollar companies. Her business was created to help women with the twinkle of entrepreneurship in their eyes launch their business and have a solid footing while gaining clear understanding of business management and growth. Her processes, spreadsheets, and unique way of teaching has helped hundreds of owners set their focus, know their next steps, and reach their goals. Kara, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me here.
This is going to be a lot of fun. So first of all, I want to kind of go backwards in time, and I just want to find out a little bit of what got you to this place. You've owned businesses in the past. Tell us about your journey that got you to this point.
All right. So if we're going back, it's going to be a little weird. When I was in sixth grade, this is what started it.
Okay, this is weird already.
We had like this little market thing where we had to start our own, I'm air quoting, business. And it was like the coolest thing ever to me. You know, I'm like 10 probably. And we made money. It was fake monopoly money. But I was like, dude, business is cool. Like you can do your own stuff. And so business ownership started for me when I was like 16. I was managing restaurants by the time I was 16. I started my own business, just like side gig little things when I was that age. And then it's just always been, what business is my favorite business? Like a lot of people start a business because they love something. I started a business because I love business. And so I start businesses, and when I get bored, I sell them.
So obviously you've got that entrepreneur bug. I mean, it's part of you.
Yeah.
No, so if that's the case, how often do you stick with a business?
So my longest business, I'm not as flighty as I sound. I was a national wedding photographer for about 10 years. And then I had other ones in between that 10 years that came and went. My second longest running one is about 6 years right now.
I love it. Now, obviously today you're working with business owners to help them in a variety of ways, specifically in hiring people. What more would you add to that?
All right. I guess what I would add to that is that sometimes when we talk about hiring, we're just like, oh, we're panicked and we're drowning. And so I'm going to bring someone on that gets to drown with me. And
Okay.
We're not doing all of the research to know why we're bringing them on and what their role is. That's kind of what I'd add there. You have to hire to really get past 100K. If you're stuck at that point, that's what's wrong, but you got to do it right.
I thank you for saying that, by the way. That is so true. So true. Too many times I've had that conversation. So we're going to probably circle back to that one. So what caused you to start this business that you're running right now?
I was in a super expensive business education program. I stuck with them for about 2 years. And at the end of it, they recruited me to teach their business owners. The CEO and the COO recruited me and asked me if I'd come back and continue to teach their business owners every week. And then it just kind of went from there. I really love it. I think I'm good at it. So I teach for like the Women's Business Center, Utah State University, a whole ton of just different organizations hire me to come in and teach their people. And then I created a smaller program, like my own program, which is that 6-month program.
Uh-huh.
Because I realized as I was teaching hundreds of these business owners, they didn't have the first steps. And so they were floundering. So I created the first steps so that then they can start moving forward faster and avoid crazy expensive mistakes.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I want to go back to that comment that you made regarding the 100,000 ceiling and hiring somebody. And just to put it into context, we've got a lot of our listeners that I think fall into that category. Many are partners. They own their own firms, very successful businesses with multiple employees. But there are a number of the listeners that literally are in that startup phase. They're in that solo entrepreneur process of doing everything and anything to be successful. and they hit that ceiling and realize that at some point they're going to have to hire someone. They're going to have to take what they have, make systems, delegate. But why do you think people get to this point and struggle? I've got my own thoughts, but why is it so hard to hire that first employee?
First of all, I think people don't know how. I would assume with accounting, you guys understand a payroll better than the rest of us. So that's probably not a concern there. But you also struggle to let go of control, struggle to what if they don't do a good job with my clients? I don't know what job to give people. I don't want them to fail. What if I look stupid? I don't want people in my office. I mean, I've heard all of the excuses.
So I'm going to give you three that I've run into as I've worked with so many people that are in this solo entrepreneur phase. The first is basically, I don't want to bring someone in and manage them, or more importantly, have them see that I don't know my stuff. And
that's fair.
It's very much, they're winging it. And to say that they're going to bring somebody in that's going to see behind the curtain and see who Oz really is really scares a lot of these people. They don't have the standard operating procedures in place to really delegate. And so they don't know what this person will do. They don't know how they're going to train them. And so that's one of the big things that I run into quite often, is that realization of they're going to kind of see behind the kimono, and now it's kind of uncomfortable. So what am I going to do? The second thing that I run into is, as a solo entrepreneur, in order to hire someone, it's really, in their minds, I'm taking my payroll, the money I'm earning, and I'm going to have to pay somebody else with it. In other words, I'm going to take a pay cut as I hire my first employee, because the business is me. And if I'm taking money and I'm now paying somebody else, it's money I could have had if I just would have done the work myself. And it's very short-sighted, but yet it's very real that they're, in essence, going to be taking a pay cut as they then go ahead and do this. There's a way to address that. We can talk about that later. But for sure. But the third one that I run into with people that are reluctant to hire someone is the reality of the fact that they don't know what to delegate. The small business, they oftentimes have the client seeing them as the company. And so because they are hiring someone, they presume no one's going to want to work with anyone else but me. So what am I going to have this person do? Because my clients think I'm the business, because I'm the only employee. And so they deal with this challenge of, but my clients are all going to want to work with me. So really, what am I delegating? So they just really struggle with what that transition is going to be like, especially as their clients interact with the business. So just some nuances, and every one of these are real. Every one of these are addressable. But what are your thoughts?
First of all, you summarized that so much better than I did. So good job for having a list.
Thanks.
And then I wanted to go back to the pay cut one, because I had this problem in my photography studio. Every time I hired somebody, I lost 20 grand. And I mean, 20 grand out of my pocket went to somebody else. And it's terribly frustrating because you're hiring to build your business and it's not being built. But that's one of the main things that we can talk about today or anytime.
Okay. Well, let's talk about it. I'm going to tell you how one of the ways I address it, and then let's see what you also would add.
Okay, let's do it.
The one thing that I do is I say, stop thinking about it as your money. You work for the company. The company is not you. The company should take funds, set those aside, and once an account has, say, 3 months worth of payroll, then the company can afford to hire this other person. You don't have to take a pay cut. The company has set aside the funds to justify the payroll. You still take home the same amount of money. The goal being, you've got 3 months now to get this person to where they're revenue producing and net positive for the business, to where you're still able to maintain your income while the company, their production, is paying for themselves. So you got a 3-month window. You could do 4 months. But the point is the money's already set aside. You shouldn't be taking a pay cut to hire another person. The money should have been set aside already. So what else would you add to that?
Well, I love that, because that's crazy smart to do it that way, of course. The other thing I would add is to make sure you're hiring in the right place. So a lot of times when we hire people, we bring them on to just do the busy work, and the busy work isn't necessarily revenue generating. So they're not bringing in any extra money. The business isn't going to make more money unless them doing the busy work allows you to increase production.
Amen.
So can you take on more clients?
I love it. So exactly your point. What we need to do is make sure that the task that the new employee is being given frees us up to do more revenue producing activities. Therefore, the production we do more than offsets the cost of them doing those tasks. In other words, we're paid too much money to do some of the things that we can hire someone else to do. Now let's go do the money producing activities and we can cover that cost.
For sure. And like a big problem I see is entrepreneurs hiring somebody and they're doing a lot of that busy work, but they're not using their time right, or they're already maxed out. So they're like, I can only take 20 clients a week. And then they hire someone to help free up time, but they still can only take 20 clients a week.
Yeah.
So if you're maxed out at the 20 clients a week, the role that you need to hire for may not be a VA or getting the busy work done. It might be someone else to do what you're doing to be able to bring on more clients.
Thank you. Yes. So what you're describing there is now somebody that's actually taking responsibilities, allowing you to no longer have to do them. And now you can go duplicate it. So just to take your point, when working with a firm, typically in a bookkeeping scenario, just to illustrate, the average bookkeeper can take care of 15 to 20 clients. So if I got to, let's say, 20 clients, I could take 10 of those clients, give it to the new bookkeeper. They're at 10 clients that they're servicing now. I'm still retaining 10 that I'm working with. And the goal is to bring on 10 new clients so that we're each working with 5 new. So that's 5 new, we're now each at 15. So now what I've done is I've grown to where we're both at full capacity. I take us up to 20 each. Now I hire a third bookkeeper and I take 10 from me and 10 from them. Now we've got 3 of us all working with 10 clients. That's the way to duplicate and grow. So it's kind of illustrating what you're talking about there.
Yeah. Because it gets so frustrating when you hire and you're losing money. You have to make sure you know where your bottleneck is. Where are you stuck in your business? What steps do you need to take to free up the time to get more revenue? Not just the time to sleep, which like we all do need. But if you're looking to grow, it needs to be the time to increase your production, the time to grow your revenue.
You know, you bring up an excellent thing here. I think there's a distinction that many business owners have at some point. I mean, it's definitely not early on, where they start to determine, okay, which is more valuable to me, my time, or do I want to make more money? And so often I think what happens later in the career is time becomes a little bit more valuable and you're willing to give up some of the money or perhaps some of the upside simply because you can hire someone now to take some of these things away from you, freeing up your weeknights, your weekends, so you can go home on Fridays. All of a sudden, it's now a lifestyle change and it's worth the expense. It's worth the cost of that employee because now they're doing the work, not you, and you're enjoying the lifestyle of, and hear me out real quickly, there's 3 stages of an owner: a job stage, a lifestyle stage, and the owner stage. The moment you can move from the job stage to the lifestyle change, it's a game changer.
Yes, I agree.
So here's the next question. You're working with business owners. Let's say they're not the person that's trying to get past that $100,000 threshold. They're perhaps more established. How do you help them transition from hiring employees to hiring management? Can you talk to the mental side of it?
Absolutely. So I worked with a restaurant who went from, I'm just going to tell you her whole story in like 2 seconds. She owned this restaurant for about 6 years. I really love working with restaurants. And in that whole 6 years, she'd never taken a paycheck, ever.
Oh my.
Taken a paycheck. They were barely surviving.
Wow.
We went in and we set up systems, like really good systems, video systems. I created everything for her, helped her hire managers that were doing, she was in there cooking all the time. She was in there managing all the time. We gave them really strict kind of what this looks like, created weekly check-ins with the CEO, all of those types of things. So we knew exactly what their role is, how this works, what they're doing, how they hire people, how they fire people. We really set up like a really good structure around those. I think we hired 5 managers. She went from never taking a paycheck to hitting $1 million in revenue and taking an easy 6 figures home.
Wow.
Sometimes when you get out of your business's way, it can really explode. A lot of the times when we're in there micromanaging everything, we are the thing that's keeping our business from growing.
Amen. Yep. I think what you just said there is so important, and I'd like to emphasize it to the listeners, because I think in so many ways we influence our business for good or for bad, and sometimes we're the thing holding back the company, meaning if we could just duplicate ourselves, delegate more, the business would start to thrive in and of itself. But so often we're holding it back because we're unwilling to delegate. We're unwilling to let go.
Mhm.
It's like a child. I use the child analogy all the time. When you're working with a teenager and you're a helicopter parent, you're very controlling and so forth, you're not allowing them to grow and experience themselves. And what you're doing is you're never letting them to grow up and ultimately be that young adult to leave the house and go do their own thing because you're just so controlling. Well, we need to let the business become what I refer to as a self-sustaining, living, breathing entity that operates apart from the business owner. And if that's something that we can strive for, then we're going to be independently successful simply because of the fact that the business can work aside from us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. And that is like the goal. Sometimes in like, accounting, smaller firms, boutique stuff, anything like that, that we start just as a solopreneur, essentially, we kind of build it all just around ourselves. And then you kind of talked about this earlier, and then it's harder to step out of it and allow other people to do it. Because, like you said, it feels like everyone's hiring us. If you have that mindset and that ultimate goal that you are eventually going to step out, it helps change all of your choices with your business.
Yeah. So I want to ask a question now that I'm eager to ask because I think you have a unique perspective. I know you work with a lot of women, and you can speak to their situation, their experience. Many of my listeners are, in fact, women. I would dare say about 70% of my own clientele are female. But I want your perspective. Speak to the women of the group, and more importantly, give some insights and perspective that I obviously can't have that you feel would be relevant to this conversation.
So I'm just going to say this is my advice for female business owners
Okay.
in general. Is
All
that
right.
okay?
Yeah, please.
You do not have to be confined to the things that perhaps you were told growing up. Women are often told a lot of things intentionally or unintentionally about what our role is and what that looks like, especially if you have children. We don't have to be confined to that. We get to choose whatever we want. You get to choose whatever you want and do this however you want. And I know a lot of women who have retired husbands, whose husbands stay home and take care of kids, and they are dominating it in business. So if growing a business and being able to step out so you have that living, breathing entity all by itself is your goal, you totally can do it. Like, there are steps in place for you to be able to do it, and you're just as capable as anyone else.
Thank you. I'm so glad you said that. I've got two stories to share that will complement this.
Perfect.
One is my sister-in-law. My brother is a stay-at-home father, and he raises the two children. And my sister-in-law is very successful in the business world and is going out and doing amazing things. And I see that in her. She's, I think, in many ways, from her upbringing, broken the paradigm and done very, very, very well for herself that way. The second happens to be a client of mine that I worked with over about a 2-year period. She's actually a vendor to me now, so that's kind of interesting. But the point is she went into a business where she was put into the position of president of the company unintentionally. Her husband found a business that he was interested in. It was in his wheelhouse. He's an accountant by trade, loves accounting, chose to buy a business. As he buys the business, things start to go not necessarily sideways in the company that they purchased, but needed attention. He needed to be on premise or on site, and he had a day job. And so here's the wife. She's volunteering at the school. She's involved in PTA, and she's basically said, "Hey, we bought this company, and you need to get in there and be there on a daily basis." And she's like, "I didn't sign up for this." And so it ended up being that she went into the company, and I would dare say for the first year, she struggled being the business leader, the business owner, the president of the company. And when I started working with her directly as a business coach, one of the first things that we did is we gave her a voice. She no longer needed to go to her husband. She didn't have to go anyone else. Mm-hmm. She could finally get the confidence to make decisions and manage the company as she wanted. She had vision. She had clarity as to what she was trying to accomplish, and she started to own that spot. And I saw what you were alluding to basically swell up inside of her. And over about a 2-year period, she got her voice, she got her her wings. She took off. She's thriving. And, she made it through the whole COVID experience. I mean, a lot of things, she didn't sign up for this, but she finally took the bull by the horns and she ran with it. And I think it's just a commendable thing what she was able to accomplish. And I was happy to be a part of it. So
For sure. That's an awesome story. They're both good stories. It's a little bit different sometimes when you're a woman, just because society has taught a little bit different things. It's not necessarily a negative. We still got to make our own choices, but sometimes it's good to hear the success stories and people who are making the things they want happen.
Yeah. So having been in the business and had businesses and so forth, and now working with business owners, I want to ask, have you had a mentor that you've worked with that really helped you in this process, especially as an entrepreneur? And what did they teach you? What was something that you took from that mentoring that you received?
The stuff that I talk so passionately about, like hiring correctly, was one of the number one things that I got from my first mentor. She had this math problem that you would do to prove that not only that you could hire, but how much money you're stepping over by not hiring. And it was like shocking. I've done it with more times than I can count. And most people cry because they're like, holy cow, I'm leaving $100,000 on the table just because I'm scared to take this step. But when she did it with me, I wasn't making any more money. And she was like, I don't understand what's happening. And it took us a second to figure it out. I actually figured it out on my own later, but it's that piece of making sure you're hiring in the right space. So that was a huge thing I learned, and obviously completely changed my business because I finally realized how to hire right and well and consistently. And then the other thing I learned from her that was super important was the creating systems. Creating systems is huge for me.
Yeah.
It's how we know that our clients are getting the same product over and over and over again. They don't want to risk their money every time they shop with you. They're like, maybe I get the right thing, maybe I don't. So she taught me really well how to do good systems and establish good quality control, which was huge for me as well. Those were probably the two biggest things that I learned from her.
This is awesome. So let's go back to the formula, not to give us all the details perhaps, but can you give us the essence of what that formula was that she was saying you should use to actually make that decision? What are some of the elements of it?
I'm going to give you a super brief. I would be happy to tell you the whole thing, but it's long. So I'm going to summarize it, and I'm going to hope that your listeners can figure it out. You all deal with numbers, so my fingers are crossed for you. The first thing that you do is you go through and you make a list of all of the places that you are currently spending time in your business. What are all of the tasks that you're doing? You go back through and you're like, what's delegatable? Not, can I delegate it today? Not, is it, do I want to delegate it? But like some other human on the planet can do this job, right? And so you go through and you re-add that up.
Yep.
And then you're like, okay, so I have 100 hours a week that I can delegate to somebody else. And then we can start breaking that into roles. And we can say, of those 100 hours, 30 of them can go to a VA that I pay $20 an hour to. Let's say that's what we're doing. So we're paying $20 an hour to that VA. And then I can say, now I have 30 hours that have freed up in my week. How can I bring on more business? If I am just on the phone calling, if I am just doing marketing, if I am networking, what does that look like? How many clients can I get with that 30 hours? Say you can get 10 clients with that 30 hours and they each pay you $1,000. I don't know what the math is really quick on the top of my head. 600. So you're already up $400 a week.
Yep.
And then you're at $1,600 a month. And I don't know what the math is for a year. That's a super small one, but most people, it just generates and generates. And you're like, holy crap.
Yep.
You really sit down and figure this out in your business. Make sure you do it for a year. What does it cost to hire someone for the year to pay for that role? And how much more can you make with the time they gave you? And if it's wrong and you're like, I'm not making any more money, you're hiring in the wrong place. You chose the wrong role. It should bring you a ton more money. And then you can sit down and start playing with that and be like, holy crap, what if I just got out of my own way? What if I wasn't the person in charge?
Yep. And it's admitting, you know what, maybe somebody else could actually do it better than you can.
For sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So to take that, let's go to the next step. Let's assume that you've got the process, you've identified it. I refer to it when I'm doing my training as you have to identify the process, you have to document it, you have to duplicate it, get somebody else to do it. And then once they're doing it to the standard that you've expected, then you delegate it. It's now their responsibility. So it's the process. It's document, duplicate, then delegate. But my point is let's assume you've got the process. How do you pick the right person? What were you alluding to when you were saying getting the right person for the position?
I've hired a lot of wrong people. That's how come I know that.
Ditto.
Um, I like to, I can tell you my flaws. We'll start there. I like to hire people like me that are loud and opinionated and don't like to be told what to do. And because we
That's
get
you?
along well. That's totally me. And so I tend to hire people I get along well with and that are loud and boisterous like me. And then they come and we work in my office space together. And what do we do all day? We talk and we laugh about things and we distract each other all day long. And then I hired someone like me. They don't like to be told what to do. We start butting heads, issues arise. I had to learn some personality stuff to be like, okay, who would actually fit well in this role? Who wants to sit in front of the computer all day and answer my emails and tend me? It's not anyone like me. It's someone who's more of like a healer type personality, someone who is more calm, somebody who is happy for me to just tell them what to do and happily do it in exchange for me telling them good job and a paycheck, right? It's a whole different person. So learning how to match my roles with personality types and goals, like that person's individual goals, life-changing.
Yep. So what I would add to this is, first of all, you have to identify the skills, the talents to do the work. Do they have the aptitude for it? You have to define then the characteristics of the type of person that would excel in that position. Because, are they introvert, extrovert? Are they a team player? Do they work individually or solo? There's these different elements as to what defines the right person for that particular responsibility. But I'm curious, do you use a particular type of assessment, like a personality assessment, that you found to be useful in this process?
I am not terribly scientific,
Okay.
which, some people struggle with. So no, mine is really, really simple. And the first thing that I ask people is I say, so tell me about yourself. And when you ask someone that question, there's typically 4 types of personalities that show up. And there's like a healer, that's somebody who wants to take care of people, and they will tell you about their family and their friends.
Yeah.
There is a closer, that's someone like me, and they'll start telling you all about their accomplishments. Everything that they've done, all the wars that they've won, those types of things. There's like a dreamer type personality. And this person will be like, oh my gosh, on the way here, there was like a bird and a tree, and they won't really answer the question. They'll get distracted, which those people are really good for ideas and stuff. And then there's a thinker type personality, people who typically like numbers and the science of things. And they will say, what do you want to know? And that right there is my whole scientific process of starting to figure out personality types. So I can kind of more easily match that to people. I'm obviously, like you said, make sure they have like the skills to do the job and they're hitting all of those points too. But for me, I've struggled with putting the right personalities in the right roles. So that's one of the random tricks that I've learned along the way that helps me match the right people in there.
I love it. I love it because you've made it an innate part of who you are that you're able to assess this. But to help my listeners, I'm going to add a few things. I think it's Aristotle that identified the 4 main characteristics that exist in society that individuals have. You've got today a number of assessments that can be done to determine which someone is and what they complement, what they do, and so forth. And the popular ones that may come up as you're talking to people would be DISC, Myers-Briggs. I've used color coding. There's another one out there called Bank. I use that for decision-making roles. There's a number of different processes and systems you can use to do these assessments. Some are costly and very lengthy, very extensive. Others are very, like you were describing, a little bit more simplistic and straightforward. For this process, we use color coding. It's actually something that's very, very simple to assess. And they've been hugely successful in identifying who does what, where, and what roles, who interacts with which clientele. Would you mind if I shared with you a quick story about one that's quite humorous?
No, I would love that.
This is funny. So as I'm sharing with you color coding, there was an experience where I was talking to one of the graduates of our program and so forth. And what she experienced is she implemented entirely within their company this color coding philosophy, and she did it like all in. So in the color coding, there's basically 4 color schemes, one of which is white. Okay, so you got your red, blue, white, and yellow. And
Uh-huh.
what they did is in the office, they would put pictures of the employee in a frame that was either red, yellow, white. They would use color schema in their desks and so forth to say there were red, yellows, blue, whites. And so everything in the office was color coded. And then based on the personality assessments of who these people were, they did the exact same thing of their clientele and figured out which they were. And knowing
Oh,
so, they would determine, okay, this employee in the office needs to be the point of contact with this client because they'll actually complement one another, where these two people would not. So red, for example, is someone that is very much action oriented. They're A-type
uh-huh.
personalities. Well, you don't want to put with them a yellow. A yellow is one of these fun, free spirited, let's just kind of go out and enjoy life. And they're just on 2 different wavelengths. And so you don't want those 2 necessarily interacting together, because one's kind of chit chatty and the other one's like get to the point. Well, the point is here's the funny part. The funny part. They had an intern that came into the office and worked there for like 3-4 months. And at the end of the internship, they ended up doing an exit interview with the intern and just said, hey, tell us about your experience as an intern. What did you think of our office? What did you think of the company? What kind of feedback can you give us? And she said, you people are the most racist people I've ever experienced. And she's like, what is this person talking about? Well, it turned out, I'm abbreviating the story. It turned out what they narrowed it down to, and they finally realized, and it ended on a good term, it was just a total miscommunication. What they were doing is in the conference meetings, as they would talk about clients, is they would typically say, well, you're a white, so because you're a white person, why don't you go talk to this other person who's a white person? And they totally misunderstood the color coding and thought it
Love
was
it.
all race oriented, when in reality it was a personality assessment. And there's just this internal vocabulary that existed within the company. And this intern that was just periodically in and out of the office, going into the conference room, hearing conversations about client relations and client engagement and who would be best to deal with this situation with the client. They would use these color things and it just came out in their mind. So they learned a lesson and they realized they needed to be a little bit more straightforward and forthcoming as to what they were using in their business to manage these relationships. Humorous story. It was so funny to hear her
Super
share that.
funny.
So
Super
anyways,
funny.
thank you for indulging me on that. Um,
Yeah, the colors are super, and it's a super easy way to do it. That's what my closer, dreamer, whatever, all those, it's based on the color personality types. They just explain themselves
yeah.
in the name a little bit more. So it's super cool. And that's a hilarious story.
I'm glad you found it funny. When she told it to me, I was both embarrassed and uncomfortable, but I was also laughing with her, so it was quite funny.
I love it.
Well, I had a fault in it because I taught her the system, so I felt like I had something to do with it. All right, I got a question for you. You're an entrepreneur. Obviously, there's a lot of challenge that comes with it. What would you tell your younger self as it applies to starting a business? What would you go back in time and tell yourself, if you could, about this whole experience you've been on?
Um, I'm a little bit stubborn and I'm a little bit independent, which, is a lot. And so I thought when I was starting my business that if I wasn't doing it on my own, then it wasn't my own success. So I didn't like to do I didn't want to do any coaching. I didn't want anyone to help me. I didn't want to take advice. I didn't want to do those things because it wasn't my own. I didn't create it myself. So the first thing I would tell myself is that it's okay to get help. It's okay to say that you're struggling. It's okay to not know the answers. It's okay to not be perfect at stuff. Getting help, you go further together than you go alone. Getting help is a really big deal. And there's nothing wrong with it at all. No one gets anywhere by themselves. So that's what I would try to force myself to understand.
I love it. Let go of the ego a little bit. Yeah,
For
that's really
sure.
good. All right. What does freedom mean to you, especially because the entrepreneurship typically comes with this goal of being free? What does freedom mean to you?
Um, all right, I'll tell you a little story. When I was running my photography studio, I was traveling a ton. I was traveling all over the country. I was getting paid pretty well, but I wasn't making it to like my kids' stuff. I wasn't making it to family stuff. I remember my family going out to the lake. We have a lake real close to us and a boat, and they were out there boating. And I was parked in my car on top of the hill and I could see them all. And I was still taking client calls because I couldn't figure out how to get away from it. So freedom to me means having the financial ability, not just financial, but like financial and mental and systems ability to be able to enjoy the parts of my life that are the most important.
As you shared that story, it reminded me, my kids are all grown now. They're all married and so forth. But I was at a family vacation. We were in Hawaii recently, and on the vacation, they commented that I'm always working. And it was kind of interesting to me because like when we would stop with the phone, I could check my email or I could text somebody and so forth. And I was just always, in their minds, I was always working. In my mind, I didn't see it that way. I thought, how cool is it that technology has afforded me that I can go on a vacation, be in Hawaii with my family, and periodically check in and do work. So it was the same experience. I thought I was present. I thought I was participating in the family activity. They thought I was working. I thought I was kind of, like I was the best of both worlds. How cool is it that I could have a job where I can actually work from Hawaii? So the funny thing is I, at the time, had a reality check. I think I thought I was present when in reality, my kids were telling me I was working still too much, that I needed to be on vacation. So yeah, when you're talking about being, on the hill, on the car, looking out at them, at least, we can both learn from that and try and be even more present. So that was a good story. I like that one. Thank you.
Oh, I have a flip side. I have like a now, that was 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
My family just spent a month in France.
Oh my, wow.
And I took my work with me so I could get a little bit done.
Yeah.
But it was a whole entire different experience. It wasn't taking away from everything. I now can check in on my business 4 hours a week, five maybe, if something is going kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And I can sit and do that on one day, and then we can spend the rest of the week doing stuff. I couldn't do that before.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to even step away long enough for a birthday party before.
Wow.
And now my whole family picked up and went to a different country where you don't even have access to half the stuff you need access to, but like picked up and went to a whole other country for 4 weeks and can enjoy that and be a part of it and like have some really cool experiences. And I didn't know how to do that before.
Yeah. Well, technology has definitely made a game changer for me. My son-in-law, he's pointed out on a few occasions when he goes on vacation with the family, he has to go on vacation because he can't do his work away from the office. Me, I'm taking the office. He's like almost jealous.
Yeah.
How cool is it that you've got a job where you can work anywhere, anytime? And it is, because I didn't have to take personal time off for that particular experience. I'm technically working. So yeah, I love it. Next question. What are you thankful for?
I am super thankful for my family, but in business, just what you were saying, I'm really thankful for technology. When COVID hit, I lost contract after contract after contract. I had speaking gigs, teaching appointments all over a couple states. And it just all for like 2 weeks was just email after email after email of canceled appointments. Like it was a little bit devastating. Technology really has allowed us all to flip and be able to pivot really well and really nicely into different ways of communicating, different ways of teaching, different ways of bringing on income, all of that kind of stuff. And it's really amazing. It's really amazing what you can do now from your home.
Yeah. No, wonderful. I love it. Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of summarize our conversation. And in addition to that, come back to you for a closing thought. Before I do this, though, I do want to invite the listeners, all of the listeners, go to the episode description. What Kara's done is she's put here in the episode description what is called the Starting Your Business Checklist. It's a checklist that you can actually get there for free. She'll actually provide to you a number of things that you can check out as you're working on your business. And in addition to that, you'll also find there the turnkey business plan. This is essentially designed for accounting professionals to give them specifically all the tools that they're needing in order to have the premier accounting firm in your area. So check out both the turnkey business plan for accounting professionals as well as the Starting Your Business Checklist. Go to the episode description and you'll find there the information you're needing to take advantage of those. As a summary of our conversation, I just love this. Kara is obviously the the epitome of being an entrepreneur. Numerous positions, jobs, or roles that she's been in. But I think one of the big things that I took from this conversation is the fact she's passionate about what she's doing to work with business owners, particularly women. I think this is an important thing that we talked about today regarding processes, being willing to create them and then in turn delegate them, let go. And that formula that she shared where you're able to realize how much money you're leaving on the table and not realizing because you just won't let go was, I think, a big takeaway. We also talked about things related to basically, how do you determine, especially with that $100,000 ceiling, how do you determine how to move past the mental blocks that stand in their way? And I shared 3 things that I think most people experience as they're having that challenge of how to move forward, how to actually get to that point where you're willing to hire someone. We talked about operating procedures, having things that you can follow so that you can easily delegate them. One of the things that I really wanted to emphasize is technology. She ended clearly pointing out that we have a lot to be thankful for when it comes to the technologies that afford us the ability to really do our work anywhere. That's one of the blessings that I think exists in the accounting profession. So many of the things that we're doing today can be done remote, and it affords us opportunities to basically have clients anywhere and everywhere. I'm familiar with people that are expats that are literally living overseas and working with their clients here domestically. I know of people that travel and in their travels actually enjoy a certain type of lifestyle while also still taking care of their clients. And the beauty of it is imagine all the things you can write off as you're out traveling and meeting these clients that are everywhere and everywhere. It's just a great, great business, and it's something to be thankful for. So with that being said, Kara, what is a closing thought you'd like to share with us?
My closing thought would be that you cannot create a thriving business on your own. Nobody can. You need a team to support you, and everybody needs a mentor or a coach of some kind that has been where you are and can help guide you. You need people, and that's okay.
I love it. Yep. This is a people business, so that is great. Here's what I'm going to do. Everyone, obviously, thank you for listening today. Take a moment and subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't already, subscribe, turn on your notifications. We're going to be sending out each and every week episodes for you to listen to. These are going to be from the experts, people teaching us principles that we can apply in our business to, in fact, build the premier accounting firm, allowing you to get paid what you're worth. So check back on each week the podcast to see what we've released. Go back and binge watch some of the episodes that we've released before. There's numerous episodes on various topics ranging from marketing, selling, pricing, mental health, client onboarding, services to offer, you name it, it's there in order to help you be the leader that you need to be and, in fact, have the premier accounting firm. I would also invite you to join us for GrowCon. If you're not familiar with it, it is an in-person event for owners of accounting firms, tax firms, business firms, or bookkeeping firms that allow you to actually come meet with your peers, learn from the experts, and in doing so, work on your business. I invite you to join us and find out more what you can in order to participate in GrowCon. And in addition to that, if you'd like more information about these principles or others that we've discussed, feel free to give us a phone call at Universal Accounting. It happens to be 801-265-3777. Or you can visit us online going to universalaccountingschool.com. And always remember this, if it is about accounting, it is universal. Take care, have a great day, and be safe out there, everybody.